We don't serve trash here. Take your broke ass somewhere else. Michael Stevens, the floor manager at the Harborside, an upscale bar in Boston's financial district, sneered at the customer in worn work boots and a torn jacket. The guy looked homeless, didn't belong among the lawyers and bankers, dropping hundreds on cocktails. The man stayed seated, quietly ordered water and fries, the cheapest thing on the menu. Ashley Thompson, a black waitress working her 5th straight double shift, watched from across the bar. She knew Michael's game humiliate the wrong kind of customer, protect the upscale image, but something about this man's tired eyes reminded her of her own reflection. She walked over to take his order. What she did next, her response to what he asked for, left him frozen, speechless, unable to even form words. And what neither of them knew was that this one moment would expose a secret that had been bleeding them all dry. David Harrison sat alone in his corner office on the 14th floor, the city lights of Boston glowing through the window behind him. It was past 9 on a Tuesday evening, and the financial district had emptied hours ago. Most nights he would have left by now, too. But tonight, an email had arrived that changed everything. The sender anonymous, the subject line, check the tip pool. David clicked it open again, though he'd already read it 3 times. The message was brief, just 1 line and 3 attachments. They're stealing from us. The first photo showed a schedule board with handwritten changes. Ashley Thompson's name crossed out, shifted from Friday night to Monday lunch. Jennifer Roberts moved from Saturday dinner to Tuesday breakfast. Both shifts slashed by someone with manager-level access. The second photo, a screenshot of bank deposits, small amounts always under $1,000. $835 on October 31st, $890 on November 3rd, $1,235 on November 7th. Odd numbers that didn't match any recognizable pattern. The third photo made his jaw tighten. A receipt from the Harborside Tavern, his flagship location. Credit card tip line 45s, handwritten below it in different ink. Pool total $12. David pulled up his revenue reports and cross-referenced them with the dates in the email. The Harborside was performing well. Revenue up 12% over last quarter. Customer reviews averaged 4.7 stars. On paper, everything looked strong. But something else caught his attention. He opened the HR folder and scanned the termination records. In the past 6 months, 15 employees had quit from that location. 15. The turnover rate had jumped 280%. He clicked through exit interview notes. Most cited scheduling conflicts or personal reasons, but 3 mentioned management issues before the interviewer had cut them off, noting they declined to elaborate. David sat back in his chair. His father had opened the original Harborside 30 years ago, a neighborhood tavern where everyone knew your name. When his father died 2 years ago, David had thrown himself into expansion, opening 4 more locations, 5 restaurants now, 80 employees total. He delegated day-to-day operations to proven managers, focusing on growth strategy and investor relations. Had he gotten too distant? His phone buzzed. Text from his business partner. Quarterly board meeting moved to Friday. Need your projections. David set the phone down without responding. The projections could wait. He pulled up the schedule for the Harborside and found the current floor manager, Michael Stevens. 2.5 years with the company, MBA from a decent school. Strong interview, confident leadership style. David had personally approved his hiring and his subsequent promotion to floor manager 18 months ago. Michael's performance reviews were excellent. Revenue was up on his watch. Labor costs were down. Customer complaints had actually decreased. But employees were leaving, and someone, maybe one of them, had sent David evidence of something wrong. He opened a new browser window and logged into the POSO system, pulling tip data for the past 8 weeks. Credit card tips were tracked automatically. Servers received them in their paychecks, but cash tips were supposed to go directly to servers at the end of each shift. The system had no way to track those unless someone was taking them before they reached the servers. David thought of his father's office wall where a framed quote still hung. Your people are your business. Protect them like it. He'd failed at that. Let the business grow while losing sight of the humans running it. His father would be ashamed. David closed his laptop and stared at the photo on his desk, the original Harborside on opening day, 1995. His father in a worn work jacket standing in front of the bar with a proud smile. That jacket was still in David's closet at home. His father had worn it for 20 years, building the business brick by brick. David picked up his phone and opened a new note. Typed 3 words, "Go undercover Thursday." He needed to see the truth himself, not from reports or exit interviews. He needed to sit at that bar, watch the staff, see how his manager treated people when the owner wasn't watching, and if someone was stealing from his people, from his father's legacy, he would make it right. Thursday night at the Harborside started like any other. The after-work crowd filtered in around 6 hours. Bankers in Brooks Brothers suits, lawyers with leather briefcases, young professionals hunting happy-hour deals. By 7, every table was full, and the bar counter had a waiting list. Ashley Thompson moved through the chaos with practiced efficiency. Table 8 needed another round. Table 12 wanted to order appetizers. The foretop by the window was ready for entree. She juggled it all. 6 tables, 12 customers. Orders flowing to the kitchen in perfect sequence. "Ashley," Michael Stevens called from behind the bar, "Table 9 is asking for you specifically. They're regulars on it." Ashley grabbed menus and headed to Table 9 where the Johnson couple sat. They came in every Thursday. Always ordered the salmon special. Always left 20%. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, good to see you again. Wouldn't miss Thursday with our favorite server," Mrs. Johnson said warmly. Ashley took their order, salmon for both, as expected, and returned to the POS station to ring it in. Michael stood beside the computer, arms crossed, watching the floor. "Busy night," Ashley said, inputting the order. "Could be busier. Table 6 is camping. They finished eating 30 minutes ago." Ashley glanced at Table 6, an elderly couple sharing a dessert, talking quietly. They're enjoying themselves. "They're taking up real estate. I need that table turned for the next seating. I'll check on them in a few minutes." Michael's jaw tightened. "Check on them now." "We're not a retirement home." Ashley kept her expression neutral. "Of course." She walked to Table 6 with the check, smiling. "No rush at all, but whenever you're ready." The elderly man looked up startled. "Oh, we're taking too long, aren't we? I'm sorry." "Not at all," Ashley said quickly. "Take your time. I just wanted to have this ready when you need it." "We'll get out of your way," the woman said, fumbling for her purse. "Really, there's no rush." But they were already standing, leaving cash on the table. They hurried out without finishing their dessert. Ashley returned to the POS station and ran their payment. The tip was exactly 10%, less than they usually left. She pocketed the cash and added it to the growing pile in her apron. By 11, the rush had ended. Only a few stragglers remained, nursing final drinks. Michael gathered the floor staff in the back office. Ashley, Jennifer Roberts, Kevin Davis, and Michelle Carter, the bartender. "Good night, everyone," Michael said, pulling out the tip jar from under the bar. "Let's settle up." This was the ritual. Everyone emptied their cash tips into the jar. Michael counted the total, divided it by some formula only he understood, and distributed envelopes with each person's share. Ashley pulled $280 from her apron. The Johnson couple, Table 8, Table 12, the foretop, and 3 smaller tables. She'd kept rough track throughout the night. It had been a good shift. Jennifer contributed $195. Kevin added $240. Michelle threw in $120 from the bar. Michael counted everything, his back to the group so no one could see his hands. "Slow night," he announced. "Only $835 total." Ashley's mental math didn't agree. She'd seen the room, every table full for 4 hours, but she said nothing. Michael distributed envelopes. Ashley opened hers, $63. Her expression didn't change. No surprise registered on her face, just tired recognition. Jennifer opened hers and frowned. "This seems low for how busy we were." "VU doesn't equal tips," Michael said smoothly. "Lots of bad tippers tonight. You all did great work, but that's what came in." Kevin shrugged and pocketed his envelope. Michelle didn't even open hers. But Ashley watched Jennifer's face. Confusion, doubt, acceptance. The young server was learning. Don't question Michael. Just take what he gives you. After the others left, Ashley stood alone at her locker. She opened the thin envelope again. $63. She'd worked a 6-hour shift, served 12 tables, given excellent service, and she was walking away with $63. She reached behind her extra uniform and pulled out a worn manila envelope, the label on front, in her careful handwriting, Marcus's college fund. She opened it. Inside were 47 scraps of paper, napkins, receipts, torn order tickets. Each one documented a night like this. Ashley took out a blank receipt and wrote, "Thursday, November 7th, estimated $280 my tables. Michael gave me $63. She folded the paper and added it to the stack. 48 nights now, 48 lies. She slid the envelope back into its hiding place, grabbed her coat, and left through the back door. Her car was old, the heating broken, but it started on the third try. She sat there for a moment in the cold, staring at the restaurant's back door. Then she drove home to her son. Friday morning, David stood in his bedroom closet, staring at a jacket he hadn't worn in years. The Carhartt work coat hung in the back corner behind the suits and dress shirts. It was 20 years old, faded brown with paint stains on the sleeves. His father's jacket, the one he'd worn building the original harbor side. David had kept it after his father died, unable to throw it away. Now he pulled it off the hanger and tried it on. It fit barely. The zipper stuck halfway up. He looked at himself in the mirror. The jacket transformed him. Gone was the tech entrepreneur, the restaurant owner with a corner office. In this jacket with worn jeans and old work boots, he looked like someone who'd spent the day on a construction site. Perfect. David had made his decision overnight. He couldn't audit Michael openly. If something criminal was happening, a public investigation would give him time to destroy evidence. He couldn't send HR. Michael would charm them, bury the problems under polite explanations. He needed to see it himself, unfiltered, raw. His phone rang, his business partner again. "David, where are the projections? The board meeting's in 6 hours. Send them my apologies." Something came up. What could possibly? "Tell them I'll join remotely Monday. I have something I need to handle this weekend." He hung up before the argument could continue. David spent the rest of Friday planning. He studied the schedule. The harbor side operated Tuesday through Sunday, closed Mondays. Michael worked Thursday through Sunday, the busiest shifts. Tonight would be perfect. Friday night, peak hours, maximum staff, maximum customers. He drove to a bank across town and withdrew $15 in cash. Left his credit cards at home, left his watch. The Rolex would give him away instantly. Left his wedding ring. He needed to become invisible. At 6:00, David put on the work jacket, faded jeans, and his oldest boots. The Timberlands he used for yard work. Soles separating at the toe. He looked in the mirror one more time. The transformation was complete. His father's voice echoed in his memory. "You learn who people are when they think you're nobody." David grabbed his keys and headed out. He parked 2 blocks from the harbor side, not in the owner's reserved spot. Walked the distance, feeling the cold November air through the thin jacket. At the restaurant entrance, he paused. Through the window, he could see the usual Friday chaos. Packed tables, servers moving quickly, bar full of customers, his restaurant, his staff, his father's legacy, and somewhere in there maybe someone stealing from the people who made it run. David took a breath and pushed through the door. The hostess, Sophia Martinez, he remembered from the org chart, greeted him with a professional smile that flickered slightly when she took in his appearance. "Hi there. Just you tonight?" "Yeah, just me." "Great. Let me find you a spot." She scanned the room, and David saw her gaze skip past the best tables near the window, landing on a seat at the bar counter. "We have space at the bar, if that works." "Perfect." She led him through the restaurant. David kept his head down, avoiding eye contact. He passed Michael Stevens, standing near the kitchen entrance, clipboard in hand. Michael's eyes passed over him without recognition. Just another customer. David sat at the bar counter. Michelle Carter, the bartender, approached. "What can I get started for you? I'll wait for the waitress." "Thanks." Michelle nodded and moved on. David scanned the room. There, Ashley Thompson carrying a tray of drinks to a nearby table. She moved with quiet confidence, smiling at customers, efficient and warm. She'd be his test and Michael's. Time to see who they really were. Ashley finished delivering drinks to table 14 and glanced at the bar. A new customer had sat down, worn jacket, work boots, tired eyes. He looked like he just finished a long shift somewhere. She grabbed her notepad and approached. "Hi there." Ashley smiled genuinely. "What can I get started for you?" The man looked up at her, then quickly down at the menu, self-conscious. "Hey, he cleared his throat. "What's the cheapest thing you have?" Ashley's pen hovered over her notepad. No judgment entered her voice. "We have appetizers starting at 7. The fries are popular, or we have mozzarella sticks. Just water is fine." He checked his phone like he was looking at a bank balance, embarrassed. "And the fries. Small order. That's all." Silence fell between them. Ashley didn't write anything yet. She looked at him. Really looked. Not with pity, with recognition. She'd seen that expression before on her own face in the mirror during the hard years after leaving her ex-husband. "Long day?" she asked quietly. The question surprised him. An honest answer came out. "Yeah, long week, actually." Ashley nodded slowly. She set down her pen and leaned slightly against the bar. Her body language said, "I'm not rushing you." "Can I be honest with you?" she asked. "Okay, kitchen made extra burgers tonight. We have a new line cook. Great guy, but still learning portions. Made 4 burgers too many." She smiled, small, genuine. "My manager hates food waste. It's one of the few things he's actually right about." He was guarded now. "Okay. One of those burgers is going in the trash in about 10 minutes if someone doesn't eat it. Would you be willing to help us out?" "I can't. I don't have money for no charge." Her voice was gentle but firm. "It's already made, already paid for. It's either going to you or going to the trash." A pause. "And between you and me, you look like you've been working hard. A person who's been working hard deserves more than just fries." David opened his mouth to respond. No words came out. He stared at her, trying to form a sentence. His throat tightened. He couldn't speak. The camera would have held on his face here. 5 full seconds. Mouth slightly open. Eyes starting to glisten, though he blinked it back. Throat working, trying to force words that wouldn't come. Ashley waited. Patient. Kind eyes. No pressure. Finally, he managed to whisper. His voice cracked. "Why would you do that? Because everyone who walks through that door deserves to be treated like they matter?" She picked up her pen. "It's that simple. So can I bring you that burger? It's really good. I promise. House-made sauce, bacon, aged cheddar, comes with sweet potato fries." He still couldn't speak properly. Just a small nod. Ashley's smile warmed. "Perfect. I'll get that right out. And don't worry if my manager gives you any trouble about it. You tell him." Ashley said it was kitchen waste and he can talk to me. She wrote on her pad, tore off the ticket, and turned toward the kitchen. "Wait," he called after her. She turned back. "What's your name again?" "Ashley. Ashley Thompson." "Thank you, Ashley." His voice was genuine, thick with emotion he was barely controlling. "Really? I thank you. You're welcome." She smiled once more. "Be right back." She walked away, disappearing into the kitchen chaos. David sat there frozen. He couldn't move, couldn't process what had just happened. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. He set it down without drinking. Someone had just shown him more kindness in 60 seconds than most people showed in a lifetime, and she'd done it while being robbed blind by his employee. Michael Stevens had been watching from his position near the kitchen pass. He'd noticed the man in the worn jacket when he entered, exactly the kind of customer Michael preferred to see, seated quickly and moved out faster. Low value, probably a bad tipper, and now Ashley was spending too much time talking to him. Michael walked to the POS station where Ashley was inputting the order. He leaned close, voice low but harsh. "What did you just do?" Ashley kept typing, didn't look at him. "Kitchen waste. Extra burger from the new prep. I know what you did. That's a $24 burger. It was going to be thrown out. We don't give charity to people who can't pay." Michael's voice had an edge now. "This isn't a soup kitchen." Ashley finally looked at him. Her voice was calm, steady. "It's food waste. Company policy says we can comp reasonable amounts to avoid. I don't care what policy says. You know the rules about unauthorized comps." He crossed his arms. "That's coming out of your tips tonight." 24s. A flicker of something crossed Ashley's face. Pain maybe, or resignation, but she recovered quickly. "Fine. Fine. That's it. Yes, that's it." She submitted the order on the screen. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have customers waiting and you're cut at 9 instead of 11. I don't need servers who waste time on people who don't tip." Ashley's jaw tightened, but she nodded once and walked toward the kitchen. Michael called after her just loud enough that she'd hear. "Bleeding heart's going to bleed you dry, Thompson." She kept walking without responding. At the bar, David had heard every word. His position gave him a direct line to the POS station, and Michael's harsh whisper had carried just far enough. The emotion that had left him speechless moments ago transformed into something else, something harder. She wasn't just being kind, she was paying for his meal out of tips she desperately needed, and she was being punished for it. Losing $24 plus 2 hours of work, and she'd said fine without hesitation. David's hand, resting on the bar, tightened into a fist. He forced himself to relax it to keep his expression neutral, but inside, something had shifted. This wasn't just about investigating tip theft anymore. This was about a woman who'd chosen kindness over safety, who'd looked at a stranger and decided he deserved dignity even when it cost her. And the man who was supposed to be managing his restaurant, protecting his staff, was punishing her for it. David had come here to find evidence, but he'd found something more important. He'd found out exactly who Ashley Thompson was and exactly who Michael Stevens was. 8 minutes later, Ashley returned with a tray. She set it down in front of David, and he stared at what she'd brought. The Harborside Burger Deluxe sat perfectly plated. Bacon, aged cheddar, house sauce, bio bun, sweet potato fries, not regular, arranged with care. A side house salad with vinaigrette on the side, and tucked beside the plate, a small ramekin of chocolate mousse. The dessert wasn't, David started. "I know," Ashley smiled. "But you said it's been a long week. Chocolate helps, trust me." She refilled his water without being asked, adding a lemon wedge this time. "Enjoy. Let me know if you need anything else." "Ashley," he said her name, and she paused. "I heard what he said about your tips, about cutting your hours. You didn't have to do this." She met his eyes. Something in her expression softened. "Yes, I did." A pause. "My dad raised me to believe that how you treat people when nobody's watching is who you really are." She glanced toward Michael across the room. "Even if someone is watching, it doesn't change what's right. But you matter." She said it simply, directly. "Everyone who sits at this bar matters. Don't let anyone tell you different." "Okay." Before he could respond, she walked away to help another table. David sat there staring at the food. The lump in his throat made it hard to swallow. He picked up his fork with a trembling hand and took a bite. The burger was incredible, but that wasn't why emotion threatened to overwhelm him. For the next 2 hours, David watched Ashley work. He forced himself to eat slowly, making the meal last, observing everything. At 7:30, an elderly couple entered. The hostess started to seat them near the bathroom. Ashley intercepted smoothly. "Actually, Sophia, table 8 just opened up. They'd probably prefer the window view." The couple got the best seat in the house. At 8:15, a man in an expensive suit snapped his fingers at Ashley for more water. She didn't flinch, refilled his glass with the same warm smile she'd given David. "Anything else I can get for you, sir?" At 8:50, Michael cut her as promised. Ashley clocked out, but didn't leave immediately. She stopped by each of her tables, transferring them to Jennifer with detailed notes. Table 6 has a dairy allergy. Table 12's anniversary, they might want dessert. Table 8 likes extra lemon in their water. At 9:15, the shift ended. Michael called the servers to the back office for tip pool. David stood from the bar, left a $10 bill, 2/3 of the cash he'd brought, and walked slowly toward the exit. But he positioned himself near the hallway where he could partially see into the back office through the window in the door. The ritual began. Everyone contributed cash to the jar. Michael counted with his back to them. Distributed envelopes. Ashley opened hers. $63. Her face showed no surprise, just tired acceptance. She went to her locker and David watched through the partially opened door. She pulled something out. A worn manila envelope, wrote something on a scrap of paper, hid the envelope again behind her uniform. David left through the front door, walked to his car 2 blocks away, and sat in the cold darkness. He'd seen everything he needed to see. Saturday morning, David arrived at his office at 7:00. He'd barely slept, his mind replaying Ashley's words. Everyone who sits at this bar matters. He called his IT director at home. "I need security footage from the Harborside back office camera last 8 weeks. There was a pause. That's a lot of footage of Michael. Is everything okay? Pull it. Don't tell anyone. I need it by noon. Yes, sir." At noon, David sat in his locked office with his laptop reviewing footage on a split screen. He'd pulled specific dates from the email's bank deposit screenshot. October 31st, November 3rd, November 7th. He found October 31st. First, the timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Michael entered the frame alone in the back office after the shift ended. He looked around, checking that the door was closed. Then he pulled the tip jar from under the counter. He counted the cash with his back to the camera, but his hands were visible. Bills moved from the jar to the desk. His fingers worked quickly, separating, counting, stacking. Then he took a portion and slipped it into his jacket pocket. He recounted what was left, divided it into 4 smaller piles, and put those into envelopes. The entire process took 3 minutes. Michael checked the door once more, then left. David felt sick. He fast-forwarded to November 3rd. Same pattern. Michael alone, counting, pocketing cash. This time, David could see more clearly. He took roughly 1/3 of the total before distributing the rest. November 7th, Thursday night, the night David had been there. Same routine, Michael's hand sliding bills into his jacket with the casual efficiency of someone who'd done this many times before. David compiled the footage. He found 43 separate instances over 8 weeks. Every shift, Michael managed the same pattern. Count, pocket, distribute. He calculated rough estimates based on visible bill denominations. Over 8 weeks, Michael had likely stolen $12,800 from the tip pool, maybe more. David called his lawyer on Saturday afternoon. They met at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere they might be recognized. "This is felony wage theft," his lawyer said after reviewing the footage. "The Department of Labor will prosecute if you file a complaint, but I'd recommend handling it internally first. Fire him. Recover what you can, then decide if you want to press charges. I want him prosecuted. Then we'll need to document everything. Security footage is strong, but we need more. Financial records, testimony from affected employees, evidence of the amounts taken." Sunday morning, David dove into the financial records. He pulled POS data for every shift Michael had managed over the past 18 months and cross-referenced it with payroll records. The POSOS tracked credit card tips automatically. Those went directly to servers through payroll, but cash tips were supposed to be distributed at the end of each shift. The system had no record of those amounts except David could estimate them. He looked at the credit card tip totals and applied industry averages. If credit card tips were $400 on a given night, cash tips were probably around $250. He built a spreadsheet, dates, estimated tips, what should have been distributed. Then he looked at the bank deposits Michael had made. The email had provided those screenshots. November 7th. The POS showed $835 in credit card tips. Estimated cash, $400, total $1,235. Michael had told the staff only $835 total. He'd lied about the credit card tips and pocketed all the cash. And on November 8th, Michael had deposited exactly $1,235 into his personal bank account. David checked other dates. October 31st, discrepancy of $1,235, deposit of $1,235. November 3rd, discrepancy of $890, deposit of $890. The amounts matched exactly. Smoking gun. David spent Sunday evening interviewing former employees by phone. He'd gotten their contact information from HR records. 3 agreed to talk. Sarah Martinez had quit 3 months ago. Michael took 40% of tips, called it a management fee. When I asked if that was legal, my hours got cut to almost nothing. I couldn't afford to stay. 2 others confirmed the same pattern. By Sunday night, David had built an ironclad case. 43 instances of theft on security footage. Asterisk 31 totaled $200 stolen from 4 current employees over 18 months. Asterisk bank deposits matching stolen amounts exactly. Asterisk testimony from 3 former employees. Asterisk POSOS data proving the lies. He created a folder labeled the Harborside Internal Investigation and compiled everything. Monday morning, he sent a calendar invite mandatory staff meeting, Monday 10 a.m. All floor staff required. Owner will address concerns. Michael received the invite and smirked at his screen. Finally, the owner was coming in. Probably wanted to congratulate them on the revenue increase. Monday morning at 10 hours, 8 people gathered in the Harbor's conference room. Ashley Thompson, Jennifer Roberts, Kevin Davis, Michelle Carter, Sophia Martinez, Antonio Rodriguez from the kitchen, and Michael Stevens. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Michael sat at the head of the table, confident. Must be good news if the owner's finally coming in. Ashley sat near the back, quiet. She'd been summoned on her day off and wasn't sure why. Her stomach twisted with anxiety. The door opened. David Harrison walked in. Tailored suit, perfect haircut, owner mode. He closed the door behind him and stood at the front of the room. Silence fell. Ashley's face went white. She stared at him, recognition hitting like a physical blow. Oh my God. Michael frowned, confused. Who are you? David met his eyes. I'm David Harrison. I own this restaurant. The tension in the room became electric. Ashley couldn't breathe. The man from Friday night, the worn jacket, the cheap order. It was the owner. Thursday night, David continued, voice steady. I sat at that bar counter wearing an $8 jacket and ordered water and fries. Ashley's hand came up to cover her mouth. Ashley. David turned to her, his voice gentler. You asked me if I'd had a long day. I said yes. You told me the kitchen had made extra burgers and asked if I'd help you out by eating one that would otherwise go to waste. I'm so sorry, Ashley whispered. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize. David's voice was firm but kind. Let me finish. He walked closer to her. You offered me a $24 burger, upgraded sides, and chocolate mousse. No charge. You told me everyone deserves more than fries. The room was silent except for Ashley's shallow breathing. David turned to Michael and his voice hardened. Your manager overheard, told you that meal was coming out of your tips. $24. You said fine. He cut your hours from 11 to 9 as punishment. You said fine again. Then you served that meal anyway and told me I mattered. Ashley was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Michael. David's attention focused fully on the floor manager. You told me Thursday was a slow night. Said total tips were 835s. Is that correct? Michael shifted in his chair. Sweat appeared on his forehead. Yes, it was slow. My POSOS system shows $835 in credit card tips and an estimated $400 in cash based on typical ratios, over $235 total. Can you explain the discrepancy? Silence. David pulled out his laptop and turned it to face the room. The security footage began playing on the screen. Michael's face appeared alone in the back office late at night, counting the tip jar, pocketing cash. Gasps echoed around the room. 43 times, David said quietly. Over 8 weeks, I had my IT director compile every instance. The footage continued. Michael checking the door, sliding bills into his jacket, counting what remained. You stole an estimated $2,800 in 8 weeks alone, David said. And when I audited the last 18 months, the total rises to $31,200 from 4 employees. Jennifer Roberts had tears running down her face. Kevin Davis looked furious. Michelle Carter sat frozen in shock. Ashley Thompson. David pulled up a spreadsheet. $11,200 stolen from you over 18 months. Ashley made a small sound, almost a sob. Kevin Davis, $8,100. Jennifer Roberts, $6,800. Michelle Carter, $5,100. Those are just estimates, Michael started. No, they're calculations based on POSOS data cross-referenced with your bank deposits. David pulled out another document. November 7th, you deposited $1,235 into your account, the exact amount of the discrepancy. October 31st, deposited $1,135 exact match. November 3rd, $890 also exact. Michael's confident posture collapsed. Ashley, David said softly, do you have anything you'd like to share with everyone? All eyes turned to her. She sat frozen for a moment, then slowly stood. Her legs were shaky. She walked to her locker in the hallway, visible through the conference room's glass wall. Everyone watched. She reached behind her uniform and pulled out a worn manila envelope. She returned to the conference room and placed it on the table, the label faced up. Marcus's college fund. She opened it. Papers spilled across the table. 48 pieces of napkins, receipts, order tickets. I've been documenting everything. Her voice shook but held steady. Every shift for 9 weeks. Every dollar I counted from my tables versus every dollar Michael gave me. She picked up one piece of paper. Thursday, November 7th. My tables estimated $280. Michael gave me $63. She picked up another. October 30th. Estimated $245, received $71. Another October 23rd, estimated $310, received $89. She looked at Michael, and for the first time, there was something other than fear in her eyes. I didn't know if anyone would believe me, but I knew someone had to care eventually, so I wrote it all down. David picked up several papers reading total documented discrepancy, $8,400 over 9 weeks. This is Michael Stood. You can't prove I have security footage, POS databank records testimony from 3 former employees who quit because of you, and now Ashley's documentation, which matches our data perfectly. David's voice was ice. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security is waiting outside to escort you from the building. Michael's face went from white to red. You can't do this. If you contest this termination, set foot on this property again, or attempt to contact any current or former employees, I will file criminal charges for felony wage theft. The Department of Labor is already reviewing this case. 2 security guards entered the room. Get him out of my restaurant, David said. Michael looked around the room at Ashley, at Jennifer, at Kevin, at Michelle. No one met his eyes. The guards took his arms and led him out. The door closed behind them. Dead silence. David remained standing at the front of the room. The staff sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. What happened here? David began, voice quiet but firm. Is my failure? Ashley looked up, surprised. I got too distant, too focused on expansion, on revenue numbers, on board meetings. I lost sight of what my father built this place on, taking care of people. He paused. That ends today. Not with words, with action. He pulled out a folder and opened it on the table. First change effective immediately. No more forced tip pooling. The staff exchanged glances. The company policy has always been that tips are individual unless servers choose to voluntarily pull them. Michael violated that policy. From now on, tips are yours, period. If you want to pool with coworkers, that's your choice, but it's voluntary and it's transparent. Ashley wiped her eyes, trying to follow his words. Second, new POS system upgrade. Starting next week, the system will auto-track tips per server, both credit card and cash. You'll be able to log into a portal and see your exact tip totals for every shift. No more black box. Complete transparency. Third, weekly tip reconciliation reports. Every Sunday night, the system generates a report showing total tips collected and total tips distributed. Any discrepancy over $10 gets flagged for immediate investigation, and those reports are posted in the break room for all staff to see. David walked around the table, making eye contact with each person. Fourth, anonymous tip line. There's a poster being installed in the break room today with a QR code and phone number. Any concern, any issue with management, scheduling, pay, treatment, you can report it anonymously. Those reports come directly to me, not to your manager. To me, Michelle spoke up, voice small. What if management retaliates for reporting? Then they get fired. Zero tolerance policy. It's in writing in your employee handbook, effective today. David pulled out printed copies and handed them around. Retaliation for reporting legitimate concerns is grounds for immediate termination with cause. The staff stared at the documents. Fifth, quarterly owner walkthroughs unannounced. I'll be here talking to everyone. Dishwashers, bussers, line cooks, servers, bartenders, not just managers. I want to hear from the people doing the work. Sixth, server representative. Starting this month, you'll elect one person from the floor staff to attend monthly management meetings. They'll have a voice in scheduling, policy changes, and any issues affecting servers. Real representation, not token. Jennifer raised her hand tentatively. What about the money Michael took? Can we get it back? David opened his briefcase and pulled out several envelopes. I've audited the last 18 months. Every stolen dollar gets repaid with 18% interest for the time you've been without it. He started calling names. Jennifer Roberts, $6,800 stolen with interest, 8,024s. He handed her an envelope. Jennifer opened it and stared at the check, tears streaming down her face. Kevin Davis, $8,100 stolen with interest, $9,558. Kevin took the check with shaking hands. Michelle Carter, $5,100 stolen with interest, 6th 18ers. Michelle covered her mouth, sobbing. Ashley Thompson. Ashley stood barely able to keep her legs steady. $11,200 stolen with interest, $13,216. He handed her the envelope. Ashley opened it, stared at the check. Her knees nearly gave out. Jennifer and Michelle moved to either side of her, holding her up. I can't, Ashley whispered. It's yours. It was always yours. I'm just returning what was stolen. But that's not all, David said. Ashley looked up at him through tears. I'm offering you the position of assistant general manager. Immediate start. The room went silent again. Ashley shook her head. I can't. I'm just a server. No, you're not just anything. David's voice was firm. Thursday night, you documented injustice for 48 days. You treated customers with dignity when your manager punished you for it. You protected younger staff members. You never gave up, never stopped doing the right thing. That's not service. That's leadership. I don't know how to treat people with respect, how to protect the team, how to choose principle over convenience. That's all leadership is. He pulled out another document. Assistant General Manager, 35% salary increase over your current pay, full benefits package. He paused, meeting her eyes. Including full health care with dependent coverage. Ashley's breathing stopped. Your son's medical needs, insulin, test strips, pump supplies, doctor visits, specialists, all covered. Zero COA for chronic disease management. Ashley collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Full body shaking sobs of relief. The weight she'd been carrying for years. The constant terror of affording Marcus's insulin. The calculations of every dollar. The fear of one unexpected medical bill destroying them. It lifted all at once. Jennifer wrapped her arms around Ashley. Michelle joined them. Even Kevin's eyes were wet. David gave them a moment, then continued quietly. And there's a $3,000 annual education stipend for professional development, or he glanced at the worn envelope still on the table for Marcus's college fund, a real one. Ashley couldn't speak, could only cry. Will you help me make sure this place stays what it's supposed to be? David extended his hand. Ashley looked at his hand through tears, looked at her co-workers who were nodding, encouraging her. Looked at the check in her shaking fingers, looked at the envelope labeled Marcus's college fund that had been her weapon and her burden.
It's just me.
She stood still, trembling, and took David's hand. Yes. The room erupted in applause. Antonio whistled from the back. Jennifer was crying and clapping simultaneously. David shook Ashley's hand firmly. Welcome to management. We have a lot of work to do. Ashley nodded, unable to form words. She looked around at her team, her family, really. They were smiling at her, proud of her. For the first time in years, Ashley Thompson felt safe. 3 months later, the harbor side had transformed. Ashley stood near the kitchen pass wearing her new manager shirt, navy blue with assistant GM embroidered on the pocket. 2 new servers, both college students, stood beside her for training. Everyone who walks through that door matters, Ashley explained, echoing words that had become her teaching mantra. Rich, poor, dressed up, dressed down, they all get the same respect. That's not optional. That's who we are. The younger server, Rachel, raised her hand. But what if they're rude to us? You still treat them with dignity. That's your choice, not theirs. Ashley smiled. My dad used to say, the measure of a person is how they treat people who can't do anything for them. Be the person you're proud to be, regardless of how others act. Got it, Rachel said, taking notes. Now, let's talk about the POS system and how tip tracking works. Across the restaurant, David sat at a corner booth reviewing the weekly tip reconciliation report with Jennifer Roberts and Kevin Davis. The numbers spread across the table were transparent. Every dollar tracked, every distribution verified. Last week, you made $380, Jennifer, David said, pointing to the report. Does that match your portal? Jennifer checked her phone, opening the staff app. Yep, $380 exactly. Good. Any discrepancies? You tell Ashley or me immediately, even small ones. We investigate everything. David looked at Kevin. You good? Yeah, made $420. System's working great. Kevin hesitated. Can I ask something? Always. That anonymous tip line. Does anyone actually read those? I personally read every single one, and Ashley reviews them with me weekly. David pulled out his phone and showed them the dashboard. Last month, we got 23 submissions. Most were positive feedback. A few concerns about kitchen temperature during lunch rush. We fixed the AC unit. One about a supplier delivery blocking the staff entrance. We changed the delivery time. And nobody got in trouble for reporting? Jennifer asked. Not a single person. That's the whole point. If something's wrong, we want to know before it becomes a bigger problem. At the bar, Michelle Carter was training the new bartender. The system auto-calculates your tips. Now, at the end of your shift, you log in, verify the amount, and it goes directly to your paycheck. No jar, no manager handling it, just you and the system. Near the back booth, 7-year-old Marcus Thompson sat doing homework. His backpack spread across the table. His insulin pump was visible on his arm. The device that kept him healthy now fully covered by his mother's insurance. Antonio Rodriguez emerged from the kitchen with a plate of fries. "Homework fuel," he said, setting it down. "Thanks, Chef Antonio." Marcus grinned. "Mom says you make the best fries in Boston. Your mom's a smart woman. How's the math coming? It's hard, but Mom says hard things are worth doing. She's right about that, too." Antonio ruffled Marcus's hair and headed back to the kitchen, passing Ashley on the way. She watched her son for a moment, healthy, safe, doing normal kid things, and felt gratitude so profound it ached. At 7 p.m., a man in worn work clothes entered the restaurant. The new hostess, Lisa, started to lead him toward a less desirable table. Ashley intercepted smoothly. "Actually, table 8 just opened. It has a much better view." The man looked surprised. "Thank you. That's really kind. Everyone gets our best. Enjoy your meal." As Ashley walked past the POS station, Jennifer caught her eye and smiled. They both remembered this was the standard now, not the exception, the standard. Later that evening, David arrived for one of his unannounced quarterly walkthroughs. But instead of going to the office, he went straight to the kitchen. "How's everyone doing tonight?" He shook hands with the dishwasher, checking in. "Carlos, right? How are we treating you?" "Good, Mr. Harrison. Really good." "Ashley checks on us every shift, asks if we need anything." David found Ashley at the end of her shift. "The staff says you're checking on everyone. Just doing my job. That's not in your job description." Ashley smiled. "My dad used to say taking care of people isn't a job description. It's a job qualification." David laughed. "I wish I could have met him." "You did," Ashley said quietly. "Every time you treat someone with dignity, you're meeting him. That's the legacy he left." And she gestured around the restaurant, at the staff working together, at Marcus doing homework safely, at the poster on the wall with the anonymous tip line. "That's the legacy you're building." David looked around his restaurant, his father's restaurant, really, and now Ashley's too. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems to solve, complaints to address, systems to improve, but it was moving in the right direction, and that was enough. 6 months after that Thursday night, Ashley Thompson stood at the kitchen pass during lunch service, confident and calm. The restaurant hummed with its usual energy. Customers laughing, servers moving efficiently, kitchen calling out orders, everything in its right place. Michael Stevens had pleaded guilty to wage theft and fraud. The Department of Labor had prosecuted and he'd received probation plus full restitution. He wouldn't manage people again. But Michael was just one person. The real problem was bigger. David had learned that 40 million Americans experience wage theft every year. Stolen tips, edited time cards, unpaid overtime, $15 billion stolen annually, more than all robberies combined. The most common crime most people never heard about because victims were afraid to speak up. That had to change. David sat at the bar counter, the same seat where he'd sat 6 months ago, and looked directly at the camera mounted on the wall. This was the part he'd agreed to film for the documentary team. "If you're experiencing wage theft," David said, "and thousands of you watching are, here's what you do. First, document everything." Ashley's envelope saved not just her case, but 3 others. Keep your own time records, photograph schedules, save receipts. Your phone can be your protection. Second, know your rights. The Department of Labor has resources at dol.gov AGWD. Wage theft is illegal, period. You don't need a lawyer to file a complaint. Third, you're not alone. 40 million people. Share your story. Let others know they're not the only ones fighting this. And if you're a business owner watching this, your people are your business. Protect them fiercely. Create systems that make integrity the default, not the exception. Be the leader your team deserves. If you manage people, remember what Ashley did. She treated someone with dignity when it cost her. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's leadership. The screen showed text National Wage Theft Hotline 1844-7623952. David stood from the bar and walked to where Ashley was working. She smiled at him, then turned to greet a new customer, a woman in paint-stained jeans and a tired expression. "Hi there," Ashley said warmly. "What can I get started for you?" The same kindness, the same dignity, because everyone who walked through that door mattered. Everyone.